So then I want to talk more about the lunging progress that we've made with Sable. You've seen the beginning in one of my previous videos, probably about how we started lunging and teaching her how to stretch forward downward by, keeping as much of a straight and elastic rein contact with the long line to her mouth, and my engaging her from behind so that she's, relaxed, but still, pushing off a little bit more than she would on her own. And so we've been walking, we've been doing our little to sheer whip exercises, and now we're going to go into a little bit of trot. And trot, Sable, come, so. And there she is, she's already sort of understanding that this little leisurely trot with, a little bit of hind end connection will cause her to be quite comfortable in this context, And as I said before, to the left, she's a little bit more sometimes leaning on the contact. And then to the right, she's a little bit more easily, moving on a curved line here as we are on the circle. And so I'm watching the hind ends tracking up to the front feet, and it comes and goes. She comes and goes out of tracking up a little bit better, and then they become a little bit wider on the outside. The outside pair of legs, of course, are always they have to work a little harder because they're on the larger part of the circle. But the inside pair of legs, if you watch that, already much better. When she lowers her neck, she tracks up almost or in some cases actually completely into the footprint of the front left leg. And that was, a couple of weeks ago, not even close. We had a whole foot in between both feet, pushing off and tracking up. So now, this is a really, really nice way of saying to her, let's get started, let's get warmed up. I'm going to have a walk a moment, and we'll change directions. Good girl. And so. And then we're going to do the same thing to the other side, and I'm just going to show this to you, and nothing exciting is going to happen other than you having the opportunity to school your eye. The eye that you have to have in order to make this work into something meaningful. That is not just round and round of, let's get the horse's head down. The head only comes down because the hind legs track up farther underneath the center of gravity underneath the horse's belly, and the back swings up, and then the neck wants to drop. That is the mechanics of it. But what goes with it is, of course, that we keep the energy friendly, that we don't do too much. I'm going to bring her right back into the trot here. Come and trot, Sable, come. And my eyes are on her eyes, but I also, go back and forth a little bit, checking her feet, checking her hind end, and there it is. There's a little bit of that nice stretch. Yesterday we had a little bit of a more opinionated session. I was wondering and curious if we would have more of that today, but we sorted it out yesterday. And what that looked like, again, I didn't unfortunately have a camera for that, was that she would every few rounds would stop and spin into me, look at me, and basically square off to me and say, I'm not going anymore. And, that happened several times, and I adjusted that in a friendly, calm manner, made her go back onto the circle, but I could tell that that just didn't sink in yesterday. So eventually I had to take her and say, okay, so if you do it one more time, we're going to have a little bit of a consequence, and the consequence in this case was taking her into the canter. And the canter is much more work intensive and requires a lot more energy than trotting. And I made her canter maybe, I don't know how many rounds, but until I felt like she was in the canter, lowering her head and becoming more relaxed and more, agreeable again. And then we came back to the trot, changed directions, tried the same thing. We had, interestingly, the same type of situation a couple of times in that direction too, so I cantered her into that direction. And again, the idea behind that was to say, look, let's do this together. I'm not asking anything unreasonable, but if you have questions or opinions, if after a while we can't come to an agreement, I, as the leader who is in charge of speed and direction, will say then, okay, if you cannot be submissive to me to at least a small reasonable degree, then I will ask you to expend more energy. And that is, in horse language, a fair term. That's, if they were in a herd, if I were the more dominant horse, I would chase the other horse until I would get submissive gestures from him or her, right? And that's kind of what we're mimicking on the ground here. And walk. And I'm not going to do it today in that manner. Today I'm just going to see if she's going to be willing to go into the canter from the trot in a moment here. Not as a partial punishment, but as an invitation, because she actually enjoys the canter quite a bit. And the reason I'm not doing it with side reins today is that yesterday I used it as a tool. And today I want to see if I can get a reasonable canter where she actually ended up balancing herself quite well. If I can get that from this place of our mindsets right now, where we're pretty peaceful and happily doing together what we're supposed to do. And no opinions are clashing yet. So I'm just going to give it a try. I'm going to see what happens. Come and trot. Come, Sable, come. Trot. Good. Out. Come on. We've had an issue of cross cantering. Lots of tension in her body. Also, I don't think she was quite happy to have side reins on her when we did it the other day with side reins. So I'm just gonna, test the waters. Keep her on a fairly small circle here to start with, and we'll see what we get. Okay, Sable, pass auf. Und canter. Come. Yeah, there it is, a little bit disunited, so I'm going to bring her into a smaller circle. Come. Yeah, good. Then I let her out onto a bigger circle. And look how nice that is. Lowering of the head. I'm going to be careful not to pull on her head. I'm just going to give her a boundary to let her know where the circle is that she's allowed to move on. Look how nice. That is so lovely. And how happy is she today? Yeah, and trot. Good girl. So, see, and there is your beautiful stretch and move. And then we're going to say walk. Good girl. Good girl, Sable. Walk on. Come. No, a little itch. That has to be allowed. So, and we're going to go and do the same thing to the other side. Good girl, Sable. Let's have a look, huh? How did that feel? Pretty good, huh? Yeah. So, and that is what I want from her today. Is only a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Nothing overly exhausting, but everything, in this mild form of, inquiry or invitation that I extend to her and say, please, let's do this. But my main objective is to do it in a relaxed way, with a regular rhythm, with a reasonable contact, without any real opposition, other than maybe a little momentary opinion is fine, but not like a standoff where she squares off on me. And we'll see how she is to this side. This is the harder side of the canter, where she's much less balanced. So we'll give that a try. Come on, and Sable, and trot. Good girl. So what's nice about that right now is that her neck is still, pretty relaxed, and she's not, as a lot of other horses that I've worked with go into canter mode, they become a lot more animated and excited. And I know that her, blood circulation is going pretty well right now, and that she, is oxygenated in her body, but she doesn't seem to have like a high level of adrenaline. There's no running right now. So I'm going to take her again into a little bit of a smaller circle. The smaller circle makes it easier for the horses that are not so balanced to go into the up transition of the canter. Oh, and canter. Yeah, Good. And then I let her out onto the larger circle so she doesn't have to stay on the small circle, which is really hard for the younger horses or the ones that are not so educated yet. Yeah, and there's a little bit of energy coming out now. Good. So, this is what I mean. This is allowed. So, good girl. So, much better than when I had the side reins on her. So, it's good. And there she's going into a trot by herself. That's fine. So, look at that nice trot that we're getting now. Lowering the neck and walk. So, beautiful. And that is all I could wish for what I was hoping for today, An agreeable horse on the ground with the Tushia whip first, then, and walk, trot, and canter on the lunge line. And yes, you can see by her body language that she's a little bit, more alert right now than she was in the beginning. But I love that, I think this is such a nice progression right now. My main goal for Sable is, as I've said before, is for her to come out of her shell. And sometimes it looks like this, and other times it looks like she has to, still fight some demons that are spooking around in her head and maybe in her muscle memory, in her body, her psyche, everywhere. And the important part is, as I said before, is that we do something together where she follows my invitation to, do a certain movement or a certain, pace or a direction change or whatever I'm asking to the best ability that she can right now, while she is allowed to voice her opinion. And that is the only way that I know how to bring a horse back from this completely shut down and sort of learned helplessness state of being, which is so sad, I'm sure that, the training and the things that people do to horses sometimes comes from hopefully mostly ignorance. But even that only goes so far in my book as an excuse, when you see that a horse isn't doing well and you can't do it and fix it yourself, you've got to get yourself some help. I certainly am the same, as everybody else. I don't know everything. I've learned many things the hard way. But always, with this goal of, unity and harmony and, friendliness, kindness with the horse. That's underneath it all. Anyway, I'm talking a lot, I know, but these things need to be said sometimes, and maybe somebody needs to hear them today. Anyway, thank you so much for listening and for watching, and hope this will help you in some way or another with your own horses, and a happy day. Good girl, Sable, huh? Good girl, thank you.